And welcome in to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital. I'm Landon, and talk about the Mississippi State and Texas A&M game. Mississippi State finally getting over the hump, getting a top 10 win over number 7 Texas A&M. Certainly a resume builder for sure. And so we'll talk a little bit about that game, but also kind of preview the matchup Saturday against Oklahoma in a game that State has another opportunity at a quad one win after just now getting another quad one win versus Texas A&M. Oklahoma, kind of a team that's on the fritz a little bit. A team that has been struggling. I think they've now lost 5 straight, if I'm not mistaken. So Oklahoma is definitely struggling over the last little bit, but um, that does not mean this is an automatic win. Oklahoma's the teams they've lost against have been really good. I mean, they beat Vanderbilt by 30, then they went on the road and lost to number 1 Auburn, number 4 Tennessee, Missouri, Florida. Then they lost to a bad LSU team close. But all the teams have not been bad, and they have a possible lottery pick on their team in Jeremiah Fears, the really talented guard. So there is some things to really look out for when it comes to this game versus Oklahoma. If you're Mississippi State, again, it's not a foregone conclusion, and it's on the road. And so we'll talk about what that matchup looks like. Before we get into that, though, do want to bring just kind of a kind of a full picture view of what happened against Texas A&M, like how Mississippi State was able to get the win, and also just kind of what the team looked like. I mean, I think there was a lot of encouraging things to look at in that game. State wins by 16 points, only scores 70, but when you play defense that way, you can win a lot of games. And Mississippi State was able to do that in this game. It's kind of played that traditional Chris Jans defense that you're used to seeing. I mean, even the other team, A&M, shot 35% from three, and that's I think you'd like to see that a little bit lower. But what was it on their team that the guy who came off the bench for Texas A&M who scored like 3 threes in a row? Milner maybe came off. You thought, oh man, here we go. Mississippi State's about to give up and have someone coming off the bench have just a remarkable game. But thankfully, State was able to shut that down. And then after that, really, their big players just weren't able to hit threes. Wade Taylor, really, the whole night was kind of kept in check. He only had 11 points, was 4 for 14. Zachary Phelps was 0 for 3 from three, and only had 13 points. Those guys are not guys that shoot the three anyway. But, because of State's ability to play help defense, you wonder, like, oh no, who's going to be left open for three? And State just shut them down all throughout the game. So I thought that was really impressive. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail. Again, there's some really good things to look at this game. I'm looking in at the half. Once this is posted, this game will be over with. But Missouri's beating Alabama by 13 at the half. Alabama is a team that can shoot the three really well, which we will see on Tuesday. Mississippi State travels to Tuscaloosa to take on the Tide, which I'm very happy about. They travel to Tuscaloosa because I live in Tuscaloosa, and so I finally get to cover a game for Mississippi State that's in the town I live. So not having to drive back and forth, real late at night on Highway 82. That's no fun. But before we get into the rest of the show, kind of recapping this game versus Texas A&M, do want to let you know that My Dogs Are Barking is brought to you in part by Arpa's Coffee Bar in Starkville. Man, I tell you, if you're in the Cotton District, and I will be in the Cotton District this Saturday, the game's in Oklahoma, but I will be there to run a 5K. So Saturday morning, and I looked on the weather just to see what it was, and it's going to be about 28 degrees by the time everybody gets outside and gets going. And I'm telling you the truth. After the race, once I get a few more electrolytes in me, I'm going to Arpa's. Arpa's is a great cup of coffee. It's a Venezuelan coffee shop restaurant. It's so unique and so delicious. If you're into really good quality coffee, but also really tasty coffee and also a really good breakfast spot, Arpa's is the place to go. It's located in the heart of the Cotton District. Hey, mention that you're a listener of the My Dogs Barking podcast. You want that discount? You get 15% off. Can't beat it, man. Can't beat it, especially if you've never tried it before. But I promise, if you try Arpa's, you're going to go, okay, this is different. I love it. It's such a great spot. So I will certainly be hitting up Arpa's. And hey, what does it mean to be rich? People talk about it all the time. I want to be rich, want to be rolling in dollar bills, want to be throwing stacks everywhere. But what does it mean to be rich? Maybe it's less about reaching a magic number and more about discovering the magic in life. Skip Langley is your Batesville, Mississippi Edward Jones advisor, serving clients in the area and across the state. Count on him for financial strategies that can help you support a life you love, because the key to being rich is knowing what counts. So contact him today at 662-563-9843, and together you can find your rich. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Um, for Mississippi State on Tuesday night, man, getting that win was not one I think a lot of people expected State to get. Like, it was weird. Vegas had State by 3.5 points, I think, as favorites, but I just had a tough time buying it, and State just completely proved everybody wrong. Um, State moved up in the net to 26. We'll see by the time this comes out tomorrow or late tonight, whatever it is. State will have had their bracketology kind of be updated by Joe Lenardi. They were a 7 seed going into after the win versus Ole Miss. You have to think a win versus A&M, who's a top 7 team. You have to think that helps move Mississippi State up to a 6 seed for sure, but possibly even higher than that. And I think with a win on Saturday, I think Mississippi State moves up to a 5 seed. Because it's another quad one win. And I know Oklahoma, again, they've been struggling, but look, it's going to count as quad one. It's going to go down as a quad one game because it's on the road in the SEC. So State is in a really good spot, man. 19-7. They're 7-6 in the conference, 7-6 versus quad one opponents. And I mean, overall, they're 11-7 versus quad one and quad two opponents, which is really, really good, man. The scheduling that this kind of organization has done has been really, really good. But State has an opportunity. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I thought what Mississippi State did really, really well was Josh Hubbard. If you're a State fan, Josh Hubbard, it seems like he's finally found his groove. And now throughout the rest of the year, he's a guy that you can kind of lean on, because we just didn't know. Hubbard seemed like he was really struggling, and it seems like he kind of found his groove throughout the rest of the game. I really, really thought he was doing some nice stuff for State. Ultimately in the game, he had 25, but he was incredibly efficient. Listen to this: 6 of 10, so 60% from the field, 50% from 3, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. Was just really good all night long. Had 4 steals, man. His plus or minus, he's plus 18 when he's on the floor. Same thing as Cam Matthews. And Michael Nwoko, just letting you know, man. Michael Nwoko, man, he, when defensively he was helpful. Offensively, he didn't really come out to play very much. But Claudell Harris Jr. hit some really big shots. I thought Claudell Harris Jr. hit some shots that kind of sealed the deal, if you will. I mean, 15 points, 50% from the field, 50% from 3. In 21 minutes of play, and was outstanding. Keyshawn Murphy only had 8 points in this game, but he had 8 rebounds. And if you saw that fadeaway shot, it looked incredible. Keyshawn Murphy has just made leaps and bounds for this State team. I mean, he's really done well. And he's a guy now that you can kind of lean on. RJ Melendez, he had several open shots. He was 1 of 7, but several just rimmed out. And if you're a shooter, I think you just kind of continue to let him shoot and hope they fall, because he got the looks. That's important. Kugel did not do much at all. It was just, man, Kugel is such an odd part of this team. If Kugel's on, State's a really hard team to beat, just because he can do so many good things and pairs well with other players. But it just seems like he's off a lot. And State really needs him coming down the stretch. But ultimately, State's defense was stifling. Cam Matthews, 17 steals from Mississippi State, 17. And Cam Matthews had, I think, 6 steals of his own. Hubbard had 4 steals. Nwoko and Claudell Harris Jr. had 2 apiece. State really, really got after. They got after Texas A&M. Sorry, camera's going wild. They got after Texas A&M in a really impressive way and used that help defense to their advantage. A&M's just not a great 3-point shooting team. And so that when you're able to play help defense versus a team like that, you're in a great spot. But like, you fast forward to Tuesday when Mississippi State plays Alabama on the road, like that help defense is not going to help you. You're going to be in trouble because you're going to have Sears and LeBron Leon and Grant Nelson. Those guys are going to be open for three, and you're going to be in trouble. And so, State's in a game like this versus a team as talented as Texas A&M, it was a perfect matchup for Mississippi State. A team like facing Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not a great 3-point shooting team, so it's a great matchup. When State goes up against a Missouri or an Alabama, teams like that can really shoot well. Auburn, they're so outmatched, which is why matchups are so big in the NCAA tournament. You don't want to end up facing a team like that. Which is why these next couple of weeks are incredibly important for State, especially Saturday versus Oklahoma. So we're going to get into that preview right after this ad, right after these ads, these messages from MPW Digital. We'll be right back and talk about the Oklahoma preview.
All MPW Digital podcasts are brought to you by our friends at Parish Brewing Company, located in the heart of Cajun country in Broussard, Louisiana. Parish Brewing Company's simple goal is to make awesome craft brewed beer, and they do it remarkably well. The doctor is introducing their new go-to IPA, Dr. Juice. It's a highly crushable juice bomb, dry hopped with a blend of their favorite hand-selected hops from the Yakima Valley in Washington. Dr. Juice's drinkability is sneaky good, considering it clocks in at 6% ABV. The pour glows a rich cantaloupe hue with a thick frosted haze, soft mouthfeel, an aroma and taste that's full of passion fruit, papaya, and blood orange, making it drink like a glass of freshly squeezed juice. They also have Ghost in the Machine. It's a double IPA brewed with obscene quantities of hand-selected Citra hops from Yakima Valley. Expect pungent grapefruit flavors and aromas, tropical fruit, less harsh bitterness than most IPAs. Again, it's Parish Brewing Company. Wherever you get your beer, check out Parish. Make sure that you look for them, because any beer that you get from Parish is going to be absolutely outstanding. Thank you from MPW Digital. We're brought to you by Easy Hemp Company. Easy is a hemp-infused sparkling water. It's a guilt-free alcohol alternative, a natural way to relax and unwind. It's all natural. Made with real fruit, no added sugar, low calories, gluten-free. One 12-ounce can of Easy has 3 milligrams of THC. With Easy, it's easy to avoid the gummy scare and control your experience. So change the can, not the ritual. It's easy. Visit EasyHempCo.com to view the Easy Finder to find Easy near you. Easy is Farm Bill compliant with hemp derived from THC, CBD extracts. Easy is for people 21 and older. Enjoy responsibly.
PW Digital. So Mississippi State goes up against Oklahoma on Saturday. They have State travels to Norman, Oklahoma. The first matchup with Oklahoma in SEC play. Oklahoma has been skidding. Oklahoma has been a team that is struggling as of late. Joe Lunardi still had them, I think, as one of the last 4 teams in. And I was trying to figure out why, because they're 16-10. They've really struggled. But listen to some of their wins, man. They're 4-8 in quad one, not great. But here's some of their wins: neutral site win against Arizona. Neutral site Louisville win, neutral site win versus Michigan. I mean, they played some really tough games at home. Or pardon me, they've played some really tough neutral site games. And then the SEC though, like they're 3-10. You know, they got to win versus Providence, but that's a quad 2 win. They lost against Alabama, lost against A&M close, lost against Georgia. Lost against Auburn, obviously, Tennessee, Missouri, Florida. So their best wins, this camera's driving me nuts. Their best wins are outside of the SEC. So they are struggling. But if you are Mississippi State, it's not an automatic win, because as of this moment, Joe Lunardi has them as one of the last 4 teams in. I don't get it. I don't think they're going to get into the tournament, but right now they're in. They know that they don't have too much. They're on the kind of the outside looking in, or on the inside barely. So you know they're going to bring everything they have. And that's got to concern you if you're a Bulldog fan. For Oklahoma, I think the guy that you really need to make sure does not get hot in this game is Jalen Moore. He's the leading scorer on their team, 17 points a game, almost 6 rebounds a game, shoots 50% from the field, transfer from Georgia Tech. But he's fairly efficient from three, 35% 3-point shooter for his career. However, this season is higher. I believe this season's 37.5%. Nope, even higher. It's 38% from three. State's going to have to watch him from the forward position. A guy who can shoot that well, he's got problem written all over it. Now, the other guy who I mentioned earlier that I think it should really concern other people is Jeremiah Fears, who's the true freshman from Illinois. He also averages 15 and a half, averages 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game. But he is a lot more of a slasher and a guy who can who loves to play with some contact. The kind of guy, in my opinion, that Hubbard doesn't match up really well with one-on-one. So you're gonna have to watch how they do with the help defense. But then does that leave Jalen Moore, open for three? But if not him, they have 2 other guys that shoot close to 40% from three as well. Duke Miles, who only averages 10 points a game, but can shoot it really well. And then was it Bryson Gooden, another guy, only averages a little less than 10 points a game, but averages can shoot 42% from three. So State has got an opportunity for things to get rough. Not that Oklahoma's going to blow them out, but just for State to lose this game because of the fact that so many guys can shoot the three well. Because if those guys don't, and have a high percentage shooting from three, but don't average a lot of points, what happens whenever they have an opportunity versus Mississippi State? You have open threes, and you just can't, and if you're taking an open three, a lot of those guys are going to hit them. It seems like everybody hits an open three versus State. When State has an open three, it doesn't fall. It's got to be either Josh Hubbard, fading away in the corner to knock down a three, or Claudel Harris with a hand in his face in a three. But if Riley Kugel's open for three, or RJ Melendez is open for three, or even Hubbard this year, it just kind of clanks off the rim. So it is kind of funny how that's happened thus far for Mississippi State. It's unfortunate. Obviously in this game though, State is the better team for sure, but do not mistake a hungry team that really, really wants a win. Don't mistake that as an automatic. All right, we got this, because they have several guys who can score. Fears, Gooden, Moore, several people, Miles, several people can score for this Oklahoma team. But they're kind of struggling a little bit offensively. They've only had one game where they've scored over 63 points in the last 5 games. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. One game out of 5 where they've scored over 63 points. They've really teams have been able to buckle down and stop them defensively. And I think State has a great opportunity to do that, but Oklahoma really wants to win. And Porter Moser, the head coach for Oklahoma, is under some pressure. And when that happens, you just never know how teams are going to react, and that they might just come all out and say, all right, well, we're giving everything we have. That would concern me if I'm Mississippi State. Also, coming off of such an emotional win, I don't like that. I think that's all. There's always a recipe for bad things to happen whenever that's the case. And State is coming off an emotional win. I mean, they beat their rival, swept them in both games this season. They just beat a top 7 team in the nation who's really, really good. And now they got this thing where they're looking at the rest of the season going, okay, well, we got Oklahoma. That's a very possible win. All right, we and then after Alabama, State only has LSU, Texas, and Arkansas, all 3 very winnable games. So you hope they don't overlook Oklahoma for something else, because they know Oklahoma's skidding. I thinking, kind of looking at who Chris Jans is, I doubt it. I think he knows how important this win is, because hear me out, folks. If Mississippi State wins this game, they'll be 20-7. But they will also be 8-6 in the SEC. They'll be 8-6 with 4 games left. Then you go on the road at Alabama. I'm going to assume that's a loss. I don't think State matches up well with Alabama at all. Who does, right? Apparently outside of Auburn and Missouri. But then State has LSU. LSU's really struggling. The LSU, they should be able to get a win, and it's at home. Texas can shoot the ball really well. I'd be a little bit nervous. I saw some brackets where Texas is one of the last 4 teams in right now. I'd be concerned with Texas. Arkansas, we talked about anything can happen. But if State's able to beat Oklahoma, lose to Alabama, and then win 2 of the 3 final games, they have some real potential here to make this a much better season than I think they would hope. So you beat Oklahoma, that's your 8th SEC win. LSU be your 9th. Texas or Arkansas can be your 10th, and you can kind of ride off into the sunset, 10-9, and over 500 in the SEC, in quite literally the deepest the SEC's ever been, and maybe the deepest any conference has ever been. Um, I know the ACC and the old Big East had a lot of really good teams, but the amount of talent on these teams are just ridiculous. It's insane how deep the SEC has been this season. With some, I'm so interested to see how many teams actually get in, because several teams have an outside shot, but it's going to be interesting to see who ends up pulling the trigger. So that is all we have for this episode. Join us on Friday. Really, really excited. We have Michael Smoke from Higher Up Wellness joining us. It's an MPW Digital My Dogs Are Barking Extra. And we're really excited. Michael from Higher Up Wellness has had a ton of success, over 1 million followers on multiple platforms. Really, really a talented guy. But he is just kind of talked to us about, look, if you made your New Year's resolution and if it was weight loss, losing a couple pounds, and you've kind of gotten off from that, he gives very practical tips, not just a bunch of motivation with okay, what do we do now? I don't know. Gives motivation, but also very practical information. Was the way I kind of described it is kind of like getting down to brass tacks on some things, but also doing it in a fairly graceful way. Because sometimes you just need that. Sometimes you need to like hear the truth, but also hear like, look, it's going to be hard days, man. But just you have to push through. So I'm excited about that. I understand that's not everybody's cup of tea, but like, I'm really excited about it. I've lost 65 pounds and counting, and some of that's been learning from Michael and learning some of his, again, just kind of practical tips on weight loss and eating well. And it's a lot more about some of the things you eat as opposed to the workouts that you do. But whenever you make them kind of go hand in hand, it's really useful. So I'm excited to learn from him, and I think some other people can get some things from him as well. So looking forward to that on Friday. Join us for that. Make sure you subscribe to MPW Digital, over 11,000 subs on YouTube, and many more listeners across the board when it comes to all other streaming services. So, man, we're so thankful to be a part of MPW Digital, and thank you guys so much for listening to the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. We'll be excited to hear kind of a recap with Austin about Saturday's game. We'll try to get that episode to you either Sunday night or Monday, to kind of learn where Mississippi State is going down this final stretch. And then Tuesday is a game versus Alabama, and that's going to be really exciting. We'll have try to get the post-game interview posted on here for Chris Jans after the Alabama game. But we got a game before then, and that's against Oklahoma. We will rev up the Mississippi State baseball as well. Everything's just really, really early, and so we're trying to focus in on basketball as we close out that part of the season. We'll talk some baseball, but then we'll also get into some off-season football stuff, some really, really exciting stuff that we will look at. So thank you guys so much for listening, as always, to My Dogs Are Barking, and we'll see you next time.